Welcome to InnoCity Analysis, where we explore the forces shaping our urban landscape. The whole idea we are discussing is the relationship between urbanism, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Today we're diving into a super interesting topic that I'm sure you'll find relevant: how innovation systems are tied to economic development, a powerful concept that can reshape our cities and economies. The inspiration of this episode comes from a paper by Johnson, Charles Edquist, and Bengt-Åke Lundvall. I hope I pronounced the name of the authors correctly. Let's break it down. So first thing first, what exactly is the National System of Innovation, or NSI for short? Well, this idea isn't exactly new. It exactly dates back to the 19th century, to a guy named Friedrich List. He argued that to grow economically, a nation needs to develop its own system for fostering innovation. This means building the right institutions, everything from education systems to infrastructure that empower people to create and share new ideas. This paper explores how this concept is applied to economic development, especially in less developed countries. But here's the twist. The authors argued that applying the NSI concept to developing countries is tricky. Now why? Because these regions often face urgent issues like poverty and instability, which might seem too removed from high-tech innovation. The key challenge is balancing the need to improve basic living conditions with the need to foster innovation. Now here is where it gets interesting. The modern version of NSI was actually inspired by development economies. Yes, the same studies that focused on poorer nations, where countries can either get stuck in poverty or break out by building up their institutions. These concepts fit nicely into how we think about innovation system today. So, while the NSI concept grew in wealthy countries like Denmark and the US, it has its roots in strategies designed to help countries catch up economically. That's why it's so relevant to developing nations today. Now let's talk about the two main ways to think about innovation systems: narrow and broad definitions. A narrow system focuses mainly on science and technology, like universities, research labs, and tech companies working together. You might have heard of the term triple helix, where universities, businesses, and government agencies collaborate to push high-tech innovation. But there's also a broader definition of innovation, and that's what the authors of this paper support. Here, innovation isn't just about cutting-edge tech. It includes incremental changes, like empowering people, improving processes in small businesses, or even just adaptive existing technology in smarter ways. In fact, the countries like Denmark or in developing nations, it's often a small, gradual improvement that have the biggest economic impact. So what happens when we apply the NSI concept to developing countries, particularly in the global south? This is where things get complicated. The authors of the paper point out that many countries in the south struggle with basic needs, things like clean water, healthcare, and stable governance. Talking about innovation might seem out of place in this context, but at the same time, innovation can't be ignored. It's a crucial piece of long-term economic growth, even in difficult conditions. We see creative problem-solving, whether it's reverse engineering or adapting technologies from wealthier nations. The trick is balancing short-term needs with long-term innovation strategies. So, what can we take away from this? The paper makes a strong case that innovation isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for long-term economic development, but to make innovation work, especially in poorer regions, we need to focus on building institutions that create order, trust, and stability. Without those foundations, it's hard to foster the kind of learning and competence building that leads to innovation. To wrap it up, innovation systems are not just for high-tech sectors or wealthy countries. They're a powerful tool for economic development if they're applied thoughtfully for policymakers and entrepreneurs in developing nations. The challenge is being the right mix of basic living conditions and innovation-friendly institutions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe innovation system can truly help developing nations? And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with anyone interested in the future of urban development and entrepreneurship.